Oh, it's time to start a war. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do been to. Oh, my back. Oh, why is my back hurting so much today? Why is it doing this to me? Why is it doing this to me? I do have been to. My back. Have it on and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact. You may notice things are gonna sound a little weird, look a little weird, be a little. Life happens. I'm struggling. But I don't want to slow down too much. I'll do my best with the current editing software and just everything I have access to, but if things sound a bit echoey, if I look a bit funky, it's because the current laptop I'm using literally cannot handle my actual regular camera, which I did bring with me. So I got the mic, I got the ring light, or light-ish thing. It's gonna be a little rough, alright? Don't worry, shouldn't last too long. Question mark, exclamation point. But let's not waste more time. Let's hop right into chapter 219 of Fourknights of the Apocalypse, which is known as What I Want Known. And let's just say this chapter kind of just a teeny tiny bit insane, at least relative to me, considering where I thought we kind of were going narratively. I don't even mean like going narratively as in like the direction I thought the plot was going. I mean going narratively at the pace I thought the plot was going. But in order to get into all that, let's not waste more time. Let's hop right into chapter 219, What I Want Known. And we open up. So we do get to see this nice little color. I don't know why my brain automatically goes to say color cover page. I think it's because my brain craves, it itches, it desires alliteration of all the things, but not color cover page. This color page, or this cover page of Lance and Guinevere. I will still admit, not like, even with this chapter, Nakaba has a lot of work to do before I actually care about. See, this is gonna bother me so much because I know, I have my mic right here. In fact, I'm gonna get real close. I'm right here, but I hear my computer screaming at the top of its lungs. But unfortunately, we both. So with that being the case, I still don't really care about Lance and Gwen as like a thing at all. Like it doesn't remotely, like my heels don't click. Nothing. I feel nothing. And at the rate, I think my thing that gets me the most, at the rate the narrative is going now, either Arthur / Kath now really isn't the final villain, or this next phase of the plot is going to take a lot longer than it seems like it could / would / has to. But enough vagueness. Hopping into the chapter itself, we get to continue kind of where we left off from last chapter, as we see the guards going, "Listen up, boys, I want you on high alert. King Arthur commands that not a single mouse shall pass us by. Guard Queen Guinevere with all you have." And of course, we see a certain someone going, "Ka-tak, ka-tap, ta-tap. All clear up here, comrades. Well, don't slack off. Our enemy could be sneaking up right behind us." And notably, he is? If he's not really sneaking, so these things work. And we see that Lance literally just walks right out the tower. And the most hilarious thing about it is they're and keep an especially close eye out for Lancelot. Which, let's say something, right? Let's be honest with ourselves, guys. Even if he wasn't using zero sign, let's say he just turned it off. Y'all got that? You random Camelot Holy Knight number 37. You really are stopping Lance, the god of war? What are you doing if you know that he's here? Huh? What is the motion? What is the plan? What is the plan? I don't think you got that, big dog. I don't think you got that. But with it being the case, we see Lance walk right out and he looks back up into the tower. And we see that we get a little bit of a flashback as Lance leaves and Guinevere looks out to see Lance, but not really see Lance. I highly doubt that works, though I think zero sign works. Once you do something, it does reveal your presence, or else Bond would have kept it up the entire time. But regardless, we see that Guinevere asks, "What kind of magic did you cast? So readily slipping past all those guards trying to coop me up." And we see Lance say, "Thank my dad for training me. I'm a disaster level celebrity around these guys after all." Which is very, very true. I will admit, there's so many but I'll admit this one makes more sense. But this is just a general critique I do have. There's so many choices that Nakaba's making where I'm your story, bro. Do whatever you want. But there's some things where I'm sitting here man, really, we're making of all the choices, we're making that one? I mean, like, do you, Big Suzuki? But I was kind of expecting things to go a different way. But with it being the case, you may be wondering, Pencil Man, what on earth are you talking about in this instant? And to that I say, we get a little bit of a flashback to not 2 seconds ago. That's why I said, like, we kind of follow up right where last chapter ends, but not entirely. As we see Gwen say, I don't know what kind of training that was, but I did know you would be coming today. Which is, like, well, to be fair, it gets literally explained. I won't go into it right now. As we see Lance say, my kaleidoscope skill is as impressive as ever. I still feel like it's weird when certain things are characterized as skills and not, like, innate magical abilities. Because, like, when you say skill, it's like it could be copied. And, like, we see that zero sign is something that can be copied. Like, but, like, is that, like, my main question here, could any one of our knights learn zero sign, or is that a Lance exclusive thing? Because Hazy Moon is, like, a weird reflection / fusion of Snatch and Tempest. I don't know. Like, that's the thing that confuses me the most, because he refers to it as a skill, but, like, obviously we know kaleidoscope is inherent. So, like, but it's just weird. It just depends on how it's being translated. I'm not sure what it translates to. Like, it may just be that kaleidoscope magic is as impressive as ever. That's what I feel like would be a more specific translation. Or not necessarily more specific, but more, like, apt. But we see that Guinevere stares at Lance, and Lance is like, what's Gucci? And she says, and yet you never even attempt to ask me about the future. It's so odd to see. Even though Arthur... And that's... People did bring up a good point, though. When I asked the last review, hey, does Gwen know that Arthur's Cath? A lot of people brought up the fact of, like, why would she know? And I was like, well, you would think that Lance would be able to tell and then tell her. But at the same time, why would he? Like, this chapter kind of answers the question I had last review, where, like, maybe Lance just didn't tell her because there's certain things she just doesn't need to know. Because, like, it's confirmed here. Like, it's weird. Notably, the whole timeline situation of Four Knights, it's funky. Like, it's... How do I put this in a way that makes sense? It's kind of like multi-timeline theory is true, right? Like, there are multiple other worlds, quote unquote. We found that out back in original Seven Deadly Sins, and of course that gets reaffirmed by Seven Deadly Sins Origin, where there's, like, an entire Seven Deadly Sins multiverse, which apparently Chaos is responsible for. Like, there's massive upscale from that. Debatably, can't, like, I know it's being hotly debated right now how much of Origin and its lore is canon and how much isn't. But apparently, like, it's a mess. It's a mess in terms of the scaling side of things. But very specifically for, like, a storytelling side of things, there is a Seven Deadly Sins multiverse. We're following the supposed main timeline. We know the main timeline has been changed because, like, Jade was not supposed to die, and neither were Macduff and Teniac. So, like, that is just different. Like, the timeline has shifted. But I don't, like, the thing I'm confused about is, why is Gwen shocked that, well, I guess my two things. Why does Gwen not know what the plan was, considering in this timeline she tells him the plan here? Is that because Gwen only has dreams in the original timeline? Do her timeline dreams update? Does she have the one set? Like, I don't know how kaleidoscope works. By the description of it, kaleidoscope, like what that means, she could see, like, an array of futures. It could be kind of like a U-Haul ball almighty thing. But at the same time, I don't know exactly. Like, just how would she not know about what his mission was here? As well, I'll dive even further into it in a second once I just get through this section a little bit. It's so odd to see, even though Arthur desperately wants to know his future, so he can beat you all. Which, aside from her whether or not she knows it's Cath, right? Like, she's calling him Arthur, could be Carther, whatever. My main question now is, Nakaba Suzuki-sensei? Yeah, fella. How am I supposed to take Cath seriously? He can't get information of a 14-year-old girl. I'm sorry, like Cath. Cath, who's consumed a majority of Chaos Cath. Cath, the guy who's made literal separate times. Well, actually, not sure if it's time space yet. But at least he contains a majority of the thing that made a separate time space, just hardline confirmed. And then on top of that, he, Cath himself, with this power, or at least the power he consumed from Arthur, also made numerous realms of Camelot, which have story. And like, multi-galactic Cath doesn't have any abilities to rip out the information from Gwen. None. No. Like, he actually has to ask. And, like, here's the thing. I can gaslight myself a lot. Right? Like if you could tell, I can reach into my own brain, rub my fingers around in there, and like tug at the gray matter and be like, you know what? I'm gonna make excuses, but like, nah, you cannot, and I say this heavily, you cannot give your main villain the powers of the literal creator of their universe, not set any limitations on those powers, mind you. Make those powers include little reality warping and have the future locked away in the mind of a defenseless 14-year-old girl. Like, here's the thing, right? There are two paths. There are two wolves fighting. Wolf 1, Nakaba just didn't think about it. Think about the implications of like, oh, Kath is like an all-powerful deity, but he's having the future restricted from him by 14-year-old girl. Like, Nakaba just didn't think about that. The copium, the like, okay, I'm gonna make excuses for Nakaba, in the same way that making excuses for Nakaba of like not thinking that the Carther thing is a last-minute alteration just because he got cold feet about making Arthur actually evil. If I'm huffing copium, you could just say it's all part of the role play. Like, Kath could just rip her brain out of her head without actually booming her, drain all the information of the timeline that she has, and then just throw it back in and like not care. But he's not doing it because he's still playing at Arthur somewhat, and Arthur wouldn't do that. But unfortunately, Arthur, even under the influence of Carther, has been like a terrible person. He's been a really bad guy. So like, I don't see how. You mean to tell me all the reality warping, world creating, literal verse defining strength that exists in Kath, and he can't just get that info out? He still needs that. Like, that's so dumb. Like, I can't take him seriously, dog. I can't take him seriously to the point where now, where before I was like, you know, Carther, or even before I knew he was Carther, right? Carther, he's probably not going to be the final villain, but if he is, maybe I can lean and rock with it. Now I'm like, if Carther's the final villain, he's still going to be underwhelming. If it is, then you're going to be like, well, Pencil Man, that seems kind of crazy, right? Like, we're not getting anywhere near close to the end, right? We still have multiple Gwen time skips that we need to mention, right? Because Lance meets her here at 18, meets her another time at 19, meets her at 23, and then there's like a couple more down the line. But I don't know. This chapter sure picks up the pace, and we see that Lance goes, well, whether we know the future or not, we all die sooner or later. And I met my friends without knowing they'd pop up at all. Them and, well, you too, huh? And that is like an interesting perspective. I don't know. Like, I think I somewhat think about Sync in the same way as Lance, but for a different reason. Like, I don't think like, this is not crazy. I don't think like Lance in the sense of like, I wouldn't really want to know the future because I'm gonna die anyways, or like whatever. Like that's kind of almost like, I guess it is not necessarily like a nihilistic approach. It's more so like a absurdist approach of like, in the end, we're all gonna die. Whatever. So might as well vibe out and just hope for the best as it comes along. I think the reason I wouldn't want to know the future is because of like the butterfly effect. That sounds so stupid. But like, I would be like, you know, the second I learn about something, I feel like I've undone it, right? Like, if, how do I put this? Even with like planning, right? I don't know about you. Nothing's, at least in my life, nothing is ever 100% going to plan like down to the minute or second. But if someone were to tell me, hey, at this time, at this date, in this moment, you will do this, I'd be like, well, that's not going to happen anymore. Even if I try to make it happen, something's going to change for the fact that I try to make it happen. Certain things need to happen organically. That's why I wouldn't want to learn the future. Because like, say someone tells me like the most ideal thing ever, right? Like, hey, 10 years down the line, you're going to be perfectly well off. You're going to have loving wife, family, kids, all that. And now I'm going to be like, well, shoot. I feel like I just fried that because I can't, like, I couldn't even think of that. But I still like Lance's idea, right? Where he's like, hey, good things are still happening to me without me having to learn the future. I'm better than that filthy Carther thing who needs to know everything because he's scared of some teenagers and some, admittedly, actually, now I think about it, every single, in spite of how old some of our casting crew are, or at least some of our protagonist casting crew are, every single one of them is probably younger than Kath by like a good margin. No, like literally a massive margin, and I think about it, because I think the oldest of our like good guy cast is Mel, who may be sitting at like a solid 4,000, maybe 5,000, depending on how long you think he's spent in purgatory. Or no, I think it has to be like 4,000, just based on like the timeline. and how long he spent there. Actually, no, it actually could be higher, because technically he was in purgatory for 6 months beforehand. Then he came back, right? After the commandments killed him. Because it was after that again that he was banished in there, the extended time for us. Like, I think Mel is like in that 5,000, if not older range. Kath is at least like 1 billion years old. So like actually, Kath is way older than all of these youngins, and he's so scared of the future because he's a bum. Because he's a bum. And like, that's so unfortunate, man. Like, I'm not saying you can't have bummy main antagonists, but I am saying it's really hard to take bummy main antagonists seriously. And like, I'm trying to think. I say you can have bummy main antagonists, but can you? Well, like, I'm trying to think of like a single major overarching series antagonist that like has been a bum and that's been okay. I got nothing. I got nothing. Let's see. We see that Guinevere smiles at that and says, "Oh, but can I ask you one thing then? What have you been up to in Camelot these past 2 years?" This is what I say. This is what I mean, like the weird timeline. Well, actually, no. I'll still save it. As we get some lore, and this is what I mentioned earlier about Nakaba doing things where I'm like, I mean, your story, bro. Do whatever you want, but at the same time, I'm like, I really wish you didn't. She explains, but can I ask you one thing then? What have you been up to in Camelot these past 2 years? I know you were traveling, defeating Chaos Knights, being feared as the god of war among them. But if you were willing to, I'm sure you could have wiped out every last one of them. And this just hardline confirms that Lance never caught a body. He I'm not saying, here's the thing, right? This is where I went back and forth earlier, right? Where I'm like, Lance never caught a body, kinda lame. But I guess it does make more sense. Obviously the whole God of War thing and like the Night of, like even so far, until proven otherwise, I guess like Lance is gonna try and prove by the end of the chapter, but like until proven otherwise, the knights in general are kind of like just propagandized in a way. Like if you don't get what I mean, think about it like this: the knights fit their designation very loosely. Percy is like the closest in the terms of like he's a life spirit, he controls life and death, but even then, what bodies has Percy really caught? Think about it. Think real. Do you think Percy's caught a single? I don't think so. No one. He didn't get Mortlock. That was Lance. He didn't catch a single body throughout the entire original. I mean, you may be able to say he was responsible for Meligan, but not really. The person who was responsible for Meligan was Tristan, so that wasn't a body. He didn't slaughter any of the Holy Knights. Ardbeg got bodied by his own people. It's like for a Knight of Death, in spite of Percy like attempting to get rid of Worlding, caught not a singular body anywhere there. So Percy doesn't fit the Knight of Death designation. Lancelot is the god of war in the sense of like he's in a person in armed conflict with another group with armed conflict, but like he's not catching any bodies. Tristan, like the Knight of Pestilence stuff still doesn't necessarily make sense until like we get him possibly doing some sort of like a darkness mass scale infection thing. And going to the famine, she hasn't starved anybody as far as that. So like none of their titles actually do fit them. So I think that's where I'm like back and forth. Where part of me would love it if Lance did go on like a slight murderous tirade after the loss of Percy and thinking, oh, well, we're fried. The prophecy's cooked. We need to lock in. But then again, he knew Percy was alive the entire time. Or at least if he didn't know immediately, he knew Percy was alive eventually. And he was sulking for the first bit. Like he didn't immediately start rage tweaking out in Camelot. So I think it's fine. I just would have liked it. Maybe, but then again, it doesn't add anything. So it's fine. That's the thing. I think that may just be maybe a little bit of bloodlust in your boy's heart. Where I'm like, man, Lance, you should have caught a singular body. But at the same time, he didn't really need to. So it's fine. But with it being the case, we see that Lance, and this goes in the timeline thing, right? Where Lance says, "You never asked the future me?" And Guinevere says, "I did. You just called it a simple boots on the ground mission." So this is where I'm confused, right? Future her was not told anything, but current her is about to be explained by Lance the entire situation. We see Lance transform into his human disguise. She goes, "Oh," and she's like, "What's with that look?" And we see that Lance explains, "Me sparring with the Chaos Knights is just a cover. Rustle, rustle." You almost crushed me there. A cover? Take this, an amulet infused with the blessings for the citizens of Camelot. We recommend you keep it worn at all times. I gave these to the people all... There we go. I'm about to say, I gave these to people all across Camelot. I adjusted the pitch a little bit for those who were forcibly brought here. What is this? A magic amulet modeled after the mechanism behind the door to Camelot. It forcibly transports whoever possesses it to Britannia. Of course, if I transported them bit by bit, Arthur wouldn't quickly notice and take action. So I'm awaiting the right moment to activate them all at once. This with him calling him Arthur still, I don't believe Lance knows it's Kath yet. I guess he wouldn't know, like, it's hard to tell. What would Lance even, yeah, because it's not like Lance gets images, he just gets words. So like, I guess he wouldn't really be able to tell unless Kath was thinking, I'm actually not Arthur, I'm Kath. So Lance may not know at this point either. In fact, I doubt he does. But we see that Lance says, that one's yours. Your parents already have theirs. So does everyone else from Cameliard. And then Guinevere hugs him. Thank you, Lancelot. Oh, wait, well, let me quickly go into the timeline thing here. Okay. So unless Gwen is lying to Lance here, did this whole event, like, essentially does her lack of knowledge of this mean it means one of two things. Either A, this plan fails, right? Because if this whole thing happened in the original timeline that she dreamed up through Kaleidoscope, then she would have known about the talisman, she would have known about Lance's mission because she was given one here in this moment when she met him. But she doesn't seem to know. So assuming Gwen isn't lying, what happened in the original timeline? Is like, she can't have had updated dream visions. She must still be living on that original 73-year-old timeline. But then, like, what use is her future sight? Like, this seems like this would be a major event that would be known. And especially if he gave her this here in the original timeline, then Gwen should have known about it, but she doesn't. This is where I'm like, I'm not sure what the timeline logic is here. We know Seven Deadly Sins does operate on a multiverse, but I don't know how Gwen's magic interacts with it. Like, I'm not sure if Kaleidoscope is almighty Yuhaba based, where it's like the broad scheme. How do I put this? It's not like the broad scheme, like there's like she can see all futures and she's just like picking one to follow. Or if it's not that, and it's like she has a singular timeline, but there are certain major event, like essentially the canon event phenomena that's introduced in Cross the Spider-Verse, where there are like certain major points that happen in every Spider-Man's timeline. Are there certain major events that happen in every Gwen's timeline? And then like it's the general structure around them that changes? Because if so, does that mean this doesn't happen? Like does this not happen in the original timeline, but their meeting when Lance is 19 still does? I don't know. That's why I'm a little bit. I'll have to make a whole separate video just talking about like the weird timeline stuff that gets introduced once you have like a hard, solid ability like Kaleidoscope. That's why Bartra's abilities work so well, because they're vague. They're vague and like massively interpretable. Meanwhile, Gwen, who just has like a hard set future sight, but clearly it's not actually hard set, as she says the future can get worse and change, which implies that she's done that before. Like Gwen's powers are a logistical, narrative, storytelling nightmare, and it's why I vehemently in narratives, whenever someone like asks me for writing advice and or I'm writing, I'm like, I avoid time travel like the plague. It raises way too many questions for way too little reward. But with it being the case, we see that Lance is leaving. He remembers her saying, "Thank you, Lancelot." And Lance says, "Whoa, stop it. Don't hug me, Guinevere." And we see she says, "Yes, boots to the ground is right, isn't it?" And Lance laughs and goes, "Wasn't lying." And we see him raise up a ring and chant the chant of all chants that says, "May the door to Britannia open before me, accept me, and offer me its guidance." And we see Lance opens the portal, which is unique. Remember, if I remember properly, for Anne and Donnie, they specifically had to like make contact with Thetis to do it. But it seems like through either progression or evolution, or maybe just Lance himself was that special that he got like this one-off free ring to go and leave. He can do this on his own. And he specifically teleports back and doesn't just end up back in Britannia, but ends up in the middle of Leonis. He pops back up, and we see Lance, seemingly enough, was still using Zero Sign at first, as no one notices him. But the second he reflects back on Guinevere giving him a kiss on the cheek, "Thank you, Lancelot," Lance gets flustered, goes, "Cut me a break," and then, seemingly enough, Zero Sign dispels, as everyone notices him and goes, "Huh, Sir Lancelot? Oh, it is. Where did you come from? It's like you just materialized before my eyes." And we see Lance literally say, "Sure gotta practice that a lot more." Now, this could be like a dualistic thing, like, you know, dealing with affection for one, but also I'm assuming it's Zero Sign, because clearly the second he got flustered, he was then noticed by everybody. So if he ever gets flustered again, could be an issue when he's using Zero Sign. But with it being the case, we see Lancelot return to the castle, and we see Nakaba. Man, this fellow was struggling just a little bit to get all the inking done this chapter. As we see, Gawain is tired. From what? I don't know. Presumably still training a little bit. I wonder if she ever got to continue that conversation with her mother. Or Escanor. or any, like, that's still, like, that they really glazed over that. I mean, like, I still don't like, but with that being the case, we see Percy say, Lancelot! And Tristan goes, you're back! And that was not Tristan's voice, but we see Lance say, wow, gang's all here now? And Tristan says, yeah, my papa, my fault, my father summoned us, but where were you? And Lance casually just says, Camelot. And here's what I say, like, Nakaba clearly ran out of time for the back half of the chapter. Dog, hair's not colored in, bow's not colored in, hair's not colored in. And, like, you may be like, oh, well, you know, maybe that's just, like, a detailing thing. They're far in the background. Lance is the focal point of this shot, not colored in at all. Only thing that could colored in this page was Tristan's tie or his ascot. And we see his pants are supposed to be colored in as well, but nope. Lance here, another focal point of the panel, just not colored in. Nakaba, brother, you were on break for what, 2 weeks before this chapter? Potato chip. Potato chip. Hire an assistant, please. But with it being the case, we see Lance say, oh, Camelot. And Tristan goes, huh? And Lance says, for the final touches, Percy, did you three enjoy your trip? And Percy goes, oh yeah! Percy, what did you do on that trip? But with it being the case, we see Donnie say, you guys are awful, man. Leaving me out like pencil can't. You guys are awful, man. Just leaving me out here like an outcast. Also, you were a girl, Nasians? No darn way. And Anne says, you were just too thick to notice. And, like, in Donnie's defense, she became a girl not, like, 2 weeks ago in universe. like, Anne, chill. Like, for the longest time, they were just non-binary. Let's give Donnie a little bit of a pass. Because, like, he hadn't, like, let's think about the interactions Donnie even had with Nasians once Percy came back. Was it, like, one hangout sesh where they were really focused on Percy, then they went straight back to Camelot and then had to deal with all of the Enfoin stuff? It's like, I don't blame Donnie for not being overly attentive on the gender of one of his homeboys or home people, which then became a home girl. But with it being the case, we see that I don't know what this is meant to be. You won't see me for a decent while. I don't know what that means. Was that supposed to be, like, it can't be Lance. I have no idea who says this line. But we see Percy turn and is like, huh? And we see the guys, we see the guards say, so Lancelot, there's a big crowd in the main hall, but... And Lance says, sounds like it. Open it up. And we see Lance walk in to see... Oh, my glorious, handsome, legendary, juicy. Weirdo duo, man. They're still both weird. I'm not gonna deny. I'm not gonna sit here. They're still both weird, but I love them both. We see Bon and Meliodas. Yo, you're here, huh? And then we see Bon say, "I'm paying you a visit this time, boy." Which so sweet, man. Like outside, like Bon is such a cool dad. I just wish he hadn't been so cool with Jericho, like being weird with his child, bro. Why, Bon? Why do you have to be like that, dog? Why do you have to be like Bon? Why? But we see he's out my back. I don't know what it is. My back has. It's like the weird middle. It's like a weird middle part of my back is just killing me for some reason today. But you see, he's posted up with cord shoes, fully fitted out. I will admit, I do like the merger of his like old outfit with the clear like just royal implications of the fluff. It is a nice aspect to the design. I do wish he still had the white coat though. Like you can still keep the same original series pants, but I do wish he kept the white coat. Like, or at least have, like, the white coat on his shoulders or something. Because, like Meliodas also keeps his original series fit. But at least his royal coat has, like, a unique design that goes over his original fit and complements it with the white top, right? Like, I've said it many times before, Demon Mark King Meliodas is my favorite design that Meliodas has. And even his regular base design just is really, really cool. So, there's that. But, Bon is here. And it's not just Bon. We see Diane and King, and obviously Gother, who was already here, are all here. And Diane says, "Hey, Lan." And notably, at first I was confused by this Gother line. You can check the live reaction. It's actually recorded back in the regular spot, so it's actually all good. But in the live reaction, you can see my confusion to this line. You can be on Patreon for those longer month. You can remember for those theater, but check the live reaction. But you can see my confusion where I'm like, our first reunion in a while, Q-Pin. And I was like, what do you mean? You have just been here. But at the same time, I realized, oh, like the sevendeadlysins themselves haven't united in a while, which is interesting, but it does make sense because the last time we saw them close to uniting was all the way back in like the 80s when Arthur first appeared in Leonis. But obviously, there's a certain implication with all these people gathering here. And King says, I thought that outfit would look good on you, which I don't know, man. I love like King. he definitely struggles as a father, but as an uncle, King just be slamming. Like, he made Lance's original fit. Presumably, he made Lance's suit fit. Like, King, he's just so good, my boy. But with it being the case, we see that Lance is like, Dad, what the heck are you? Why the heck are you here? What about Benwick and Mom, for that matter? And Bond says, why didn't you tell us you had this plan of action going, huh? That's cold, son. Which is interesting. I love how Bond just doesn't answer the question. He's like, man, I answer you. Which, hey, as a full-grown man with a father of his own, he also never answers any of the questions. But with it being the case, we see that Gother explains, I informed the rest of them. And naturally, Lancelot, basically for the audience, asks, where did that body come from, Gother? And Gother explains, Merlin keeps several replacements in her magic laboratory. So, that's weird. I mean, like, I guess it makes sense. Maybe Gother was like, I don't have to, like, not the entire body is destroyed. I mean, it wasn't literally decapitated, so I don't need to get a whole new body. But if you remember, Gother lost their arm and leg in Pelgard's realm, right? Or, no, they lost it to Beltreep before they were teleported to Pelgard's realm at the start of part 2. Oh, wait, what is happening? Are you still Gucci? Oh, encoding overloaded. Consider turn the video to, okay. But, I hope this doesn't cut out too badly because I'm yapping for a minute. But, with that being the case, Gother didn't get a new body then. He only got a new body after the events of Onflin. So, like, I guess while she does have several replacements, Gother will only get an entirely new body if a majority of his original or current body is destroyed. But with it being the case, well, it's nice to get that lore and confirm that Merlin's workshop is still accessible to the Sins, just Merlin herself isn't. We see Diane lean over and just drown her nephew in her hair, which is very, very sweet. And she says, or no, I believe this, yeah, it's King who says, don't worry about Benwick either. It's in the hands of some reliable guardians. And we see that Diane says, it's and the Fairy King's lands too. And Lancelot's naturally like, what do you mean by reliable guardians, Auntie? And we see my glorious handsome, juicy, legendary baby boy. Oh, it's cinema. Oh, look at him, oh, my back. Oh, my back. Oh, my back. Oh, okay, few things. I literally nearly did a backflip in live reaction when I saw who was here. But, first things first. Zeldris and Gelda being here does raise the question of who's guarding the demon realm. Like, this would make me assume that Nanashi really did defect, right? Like, Nanashi may still be in the Celestial Realm or something, like, after the events of the Demon World arc. Because if he was not, they sent way too many resources to guard the Fairy Realm, like, or to guard Benwick. I get why, but Zeldris being here and Gelda being here in their original series outfits is kind of like, I did like their new fits, so I'm kind of sad they went back to the original series outfits, but at least Gelda got to keep her new hairstyle, and it's nice to see base Zeldris, right? Like, it still technically is a different design because we rarely see base Zeldris in his original series fit, but nice to have Zeldris here. He's returned, especially, it's nice specifically because Zeldris is guarding Benwick, one of the fairy realms, or at least a realm with a lot of fairies in it, and we know that Zeldris was responsible for, you know, propagating the Second Holy War, so this is a good way of reparations. Schwartz is here as well, along with, I think, is it Pump? One of Galen's many nephews. But that's the thing, right? There's so many resources from the Demon Realm being hoisted here. I do hope the Demon Realm doesn't accidentally get ravaged while they're away, but it still is very nice to see Zeldris and Gelda being willing to help out and help defend. Of course, though, this definitely is kind of strange. We know Zeldris isn't even Demon King level, unfortunately, even still. So, like, heaven forbid Arthur himself shows up at Benwick and just raffle stomps the place. I don't think Zeldris or Gelda, or especially not Elaine, well, really, especially not Gelda, but especially not Elaine would be able to do much there. But it is nice to see them here. I'd like to thank you to our Sketch Tier members, Sort of Flame, Riddle 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, Brendan Payne, J2MA, Guillaume, Buddha Ura, Enzo, Swift Strike, Super Flame Zero, Yuki Ally, Strike a Man, Grim, Ollie, the Boy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Magic, CCC, Armando Furen, Dino, Heath Nelson, Hector Gonzalez, Tim Thomas, Coving, Julian Perez, Akolade Babatunde, Union I, RXN, Nevis97, Logan Guzman, Dead Meme, Koru Deer, Christian Carter, Keanu John Stewart, Donovan McIntosh, Sino King, Hamza Idrisi, BNA DNA, Edwin Ingbignoba, Cyan, Straw, Cybersage 12, Athenzi Shear, Antavius Mitchell, Plant Crone, Azo2404, Kriya Panem, Zapro, Weary Exile, Corina Hernandez, Sheesh King, Window Life, Alex Kenny, Victor Jacobs, Todd, Dre, Axis XZ, The Practical One, Aswin Hedi Presetia, JMD Katie, Devi Pesiet, London Clapwick, CAET, and Funny Dude. Then I'd like to thank you to our line art tier patrons, A+A, Kevin Encarnacion, Sean, Dread Zoan, Midnight Lord 21, Alyssa Bujanos, CJ, and Brandon Cathell. Then I'd like to thank you to our Ink tier members, King RTX, Shrimpo the 4th Shrimp 06, and Zom. Then I'd like to thank you to our digital art tier members, Jay Warrior and AZ Void. And give a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons, Walking Munoz and Walking Munoz.